Today's review, we're going to Baron Brewery and this brand new beer called Treading Lightly. It's an IPA, it's 6% in this big 500ml can. But what's it going to be like? Keep watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to Baron. Baron make great beers and they make them in these big 500ml cans, which is always good. They also put lots of information on the back, so we know exactly what's in it. Almost too much information, but I'll tell you the hops. We've got Citra, we've got Nelson, we've got Simcoe, Idaho 7, and also Luminoso, which apparently gives everything a big lift. Extra pale wheat malt, oats, dextrin malt, and chip malt on the grain bill. Yeast, WHC, saturated, Lao brew, Pomona. Don't know what that means. And it tells you all the water stuff and, you know, this, that, and the other. So it's good that they put stuff on there. A little bit, probably too much, even for me. I'm not really. I like to know the hops. That's it, really. I mean, it just says it's a partial return of beer with happy memories of from 2023, Tiptoes. An old favourite which we've recreated with identical malts, water, and hops, with an addition of some Luminosa hops for a lift. I don't remember that beer. I haven't had that beer. But I've had a few good Baron beers, and I think they make very good beers. I don't buy them enough. They're not like the likes of sort of Azvex and Polly's in terms of releasing like 3 or 4 different beers every week. But the stuff that I've had has always been good. To some extent, some of it's been pretty great actually. But we'll see what this beer is like. Well, certainly bearing in mind, you can see in terms of the malts, very, very light. It's a very yellowy colour beer. I wouldn't say it's custard because it doesn't. You can see there's a haze to it, but I wouldn't say it's anywhere near as thick as what we probably would like. But yeah, maybe it's going to be a lighter, easier drinking beer. So let's see what the aroma's like. Okay. Citrus, lemons, grapefruits. There's a little bit of earthiness and I'm picking up some of that grape and gooseberry from the Nelson. It smells pretty good. It smells very bright and very on the citrus side than the tropical side. I think it's going to be a refreshing sort of beer. And as I say, I don't think it's going to be as thick as probably I like. Maybe you guys are the same. But anyway, let's taste it, shall we? Cheers, everyone. Yeah. A little disappointing, really. This beer is thin. You know, it's a really thin beer. It drinks much more like a pale ale than an IPA. There's just not enough. There's no body to it at all. It's almost watery, not necessarily in flavour, but watery certainly in mouthfeel. It just sort of slides down, and nothing really sort of sticks to really sort of unpack the flavours. It's a beer which I think I said in a review recently that I think it was a supermarket beer where I thought the flavours were there, but because it was so light and thin, you just couldn't taste them. You know, it went down. And you go, oh, what was that? It's gone. You know, I've got to go back again. And this is what this one's like. Carbonation's a bit zippy. There's lots of citrus flavours. But again, I think when you get light beer and you get a citrus flavour, all I'm getting is a lemony flavour. And I'm going, where's the rest of it? We've got we've got 5 hops in this beer. I'm not picking up really any of the Nelson in here at all. It's all about Citra hop. That's the flavour. And then there's something else, and I think it's the Luminoso. It's some sort of. It's almost like boosting that Citra. But it's similar to if you had a beer with like Citra, and then it has like Citra Cryo and all those different types of Citra. It amplifies the Citra, and that's what you got with this. But the body is banging average, if I'm honest. You know, I mean. It's almost got a body of an IPA that you'd buy from a supermarket, which, unfortunately, Baron, that is a very bad thing to say about a beer like this, which, you know, just check how much I paid for this beer. $5.25. Yes, it's in a big can, But I almost think like even some of the New Monk ones from the supermarkets got more body and the flavour's better. Again, I think if I drank this beer on a hot summer's night, I would have loved it. It'd be like, this is just what I'm looking for, because it's light, it's refreshing, it's really easy to drink. As I'm sitting here in February, cold, I want flavour. I want a beer that can get me mouth round, as it were, a real sort of chewy flavour. But with this, it's just like watery. Yes, refreshing. Zippy bit of carbonation creates that little bit more zest in terms of the flavour. But it's like it just disappears as quickly as you taste it, and you just think, I've got to drink it again. Oh yeah, there's that hit, but the hit is so instant and then it's forgotten. And I don't want that from a craft beer. I don't want that from an IPA. I want something in here which has got a bit more to it. I'm getting hints of grapefruit, hints, very subtle hints from the Nelson Sauvin in this is very sort of subtle. Even things like Simcoe. Simcoe brings more grapefruit, but I always think it's more about the earthiness, especially when it's one of those hops that works with other hops, really. For me, the flavour is Citra, and then there's a little bit more of almost like a sherbety flavour of those sort of Citra flavours that you get, if that makes sense, which I'm thinking is coming from the Luminoso. There's also Idaho 7, which for me, it's very much black tea. That's it. It creates this sort of earthy bitterness in beers for me. Like Simcoe, but Simcoe has a little bit more of an edge of grapefruit, I think, in terms of its sort of bitterness flavouring. Idaho 7 is about tea. There's not really that much there. There's nothing that holds it together. I mean, look at the beer. It's very... I mean, that is a beer that looks like a pale ale. What is it about these beers that are masquerading as pale ales? I get to the point when I think, oh God, is it IPAs? Is it because I drank a lot of double IPAs and so I'm drinking this as an IPA? And I just find it watery, thin. Flavour is there, but it's just a split second it's there. Yeah, I'm sorry, but this is bang average. I think I've drank enough. Let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Treading Lightly from Baron. Now this £5.25 craft beer, it's in a 500ml can. It's from Baron that make good beers. Very good beers, in fact. But this is a real misstep for me. I'm trying to think, is it because my flavour, my tastes have changed? But, you know, I think even if I had drank this and I wasn't a big fan of double IPAs, I would have found it seriously lacking. For me, if you get the mouthfeel right, it can make a sort of average tasting beer better. If you get it wrong, though, and it's an average tasting, it can really drop down in terms of the overall sort of experience that you have. And I think the scores pretty much highlight that. So let's go through them, starting with aroma, appearance, flavour, value for money. As I said, this was $5.25. It's around the right sort of price for an IPA, especially in a 500ml can. But if the beer is lacking and it's more like a pale ale, then I think that, you know, you've got to take a point off that for its value. And then finally, my overall experience. Tighten the scores up. Well, we make it to the recommended, but it hits 70 out of 100. I can't remember we've had a good brewery making an IPA with hops that I'm going to like, with a track record that's good, that can come in at that sort of level. I mean, you think, oh, what are you talking about, Rocky? You're giving it 70. It's recommended. It's something that you'd recommend people to drink. But for me, it's almost like the 70 is the new 60, if that makes sense. It just doesn't have it. It's so lacking on so many levels, and for me, there's not really much in terms of redeeming features. As I said, if I drank this in the summer, it was a hot day, and I was like, oh, I'm just gasping for a beer. I drank this, I probably would have really enjoyed it. And there's some nice flavours there, but it just doesn't stay. It just doesn't stay. It doesn't hang around long enough. I think if the malt bill was a little bit more oats in it, or it was just a little thicker in terms of its body, the flavour would have been better, because the flavour would have stuck around. But at the moment, all I'm getting is this sherbety lemon flavour with very subtle hints of sort of grapefruit and to some extent maybe some subtle hints of something else, like maybe the gooseberry, maybe the white grape flavours. But it all sort of merges into a lemony sort of blend. It's all right, but I wouldn't actually, even though it was I said 70 is recommended, I wouldn't recommend this. It's unfortunate, because this will now make me think twice about buying a Baron beer, where normally I'd go, well, of course I'm going to buy a Baron beer because they're great and they're in 500ml cans. But really disappointed with this one. But let me know if you've had this. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it. Have you had any Baron beers recently that maybe were better and up there with some of the best beers? As I said, I think they make good beers. I like the way that they present all the information that you want when you're reading about it. Actually, I hadn't even said it's. I mean, it does say that it's hot with. It's a double dry hop method. Luminose as an addition to bring a wave of pink grapefruit added post fermentation with the citra. But for me, it's all about citra. It's almost like citra in different ways, really. That's what I'm getting more from this beer. I'm not getting much from the Simcoe, not getting much from the Idaho 7. I'm not really getting huge amounts from the Nelson either. But yeah, I'm whittling on now. So unfortunately, it's not a beer that I would probably recommend, even though it got 70. I must change my scores. But it's, yeah. Unfortunately, it's not that great. So let me know what you think of the video. Please give it a thumbs up. I know I've gone on a bit, so you probably want to give it a thumbs down. But do either of them. At least I know if I'm doing the right thing. Let me know in the comments what you think of the video. And until the next one, what you do, like and subscribe. I've said like, but subscribe. Drink good craft beer. And more importantly, you've got to keep on rocking.